The boy was born into a family of Italian immigrants who came to America in the early 20th century. The baby almost died during labor. To help him give birth, the 6-kilogram baby was dragged with forceps, leaving a mark on his cheek for the rest of his life and a damaged eardrum. Sinatra's father worked in the port, took part in illegal boxing fights and became a fireman. Frank's mother worked as a nurse midwife and provided illegal services to women in her neighborhood. During Prohibition, she and her husband opened a tavern where customers could buy contraband alcohol and cigarettes. The boy's upbringing was taken care of by his grandparents. Problems with his left ear didn't stop Frank from developing a passion for music. From the age of 13 he performed with the ukulele at his parents' tavern and then at other venues, picking up tunes at will. At 16, he was kicked out of school for bad behavior and poor grades. But this did not sadden him, for by this time he had already formed a quartet with friends, the Hoboken Four, which won the 1935 radio show Amateur Hour of the Major Bose Young Talent competition. The musicians soon toured half the country, performing in bars and taverns. But the ambitious Sinatra dreamed of a solo career and left the quartet. Through his mother's connections, he met a fellow mafioso from Lucky Luciano's hometown and he set about promoting the young performer, who gave his word never to tell anyone about the acquaintance. With the orchestra of renowned musician and producer Harry James, Frank went on his first major tour of the country. He then appeared in Tommy Dorsey's jazz band as a soloist, later with Benny Goodman's orchestra, and in a short time became a national star. Fame, thousands of female fans, posters, the best concert halls and clubs, all this was the embodiment of his youthful dream. In 1942 Sinatra was already performing solo concerts in Times Square. He was noticed in Hollywood, and by the end of the war he had a dozen roles under his belt. In 1946 he released his first album, The Voice of Frank Sinatra, and 2 years later his second, Christmas Songs by Sinatra, with its legendary Christmas songs that became part of the golden fund of world music. At the height of his career, Sinatra had a breakdown due to personal problems. Depression almost drove him to suicide. He lost his voice, he was tearing up contracts and, had it not been for the help of patrons, he would have sunk into oblivion. His role in From Now and Forever in 1953 brought him back to stardom and won him an Oscar for his supporting role. His voice returned in time, and Sinatra continued to perform and record albums. He also had the talent to host TV and radio shows. He sang with stars Sammy Davis, Dean Martin, Joe Bishop, and Peter Lawford. He had a stake in several casinos in Las Vegas, bringing in huge profits, fame and power. Believing that John Kennedy would change America, end racial discrimination and appoint him ambassador to Italy, Frank took part in the campaign. But when Kennedy's brother Robert, who had become Attorney General, declared war on the Mafia and compiled a dossier on Sinatra, Frank realized that he had miscalculated and narrowly escaped reprisals by the Mafia and persecution by the law. In 1965 he took up directing and producing, made Only the Brave and produced 7 films. In 1971, realizing that audiences were waiting for younger idols, Sinatra announced his retirement from the stage. He released several more solo albums, and in 1979 sang a new arrangement of the legendary New York, New York, which became the Christmas anthem of New York City and is still sung in Times Square at every New Year's Eve to this day. 1993 saw the release of Sinatra's last 2 Lifetime compilations, Duets and Duets 2, recorded with Tony Bennett, Barbra Streisand, Liza Minnelli, Julio Iglesias, Charles Aznavour and other stars. On the 25th of February 1995, the Golden Voice came out of the stage for the last time. Despite his mediocre looks, Frank was bathed in female attention from a young age. His mother, determined to bring stability to her son's personal life, found him a suitable bride, and in 1939 Sinatra married Nancy Barbato. After some time, Nancy gave birth to his 2 daughters and a son. However, neither his wife nor his children could stop the spunky Italian. The wife stayed silent for a long time to keep the family together, but when her husband lost his head in love with actress Ava Gardner and began to show his feelings in public, she filed for divorce. In 1951, Just after his divorce, Frank married Gardner. Their married life was not a happy one. Passions boiled over, quarrels were extinguished by stormy reconciliations. Mutual infidelity and recriminations eventually led them 6 years later to divorce. Despite their irreconcilable differences, they remained friends, and it was Sinatra who paid the medical bills when he learned of the illness of his main love in life, Ava. Actress Mia Farrow, 30 years younger than her husband, became the performer's third wife of a year and a half. Sinatra's last wife, former dancer and model Barbara Marx, whom he married in 1976, gave him peace of mind and comfort without regard for his affairs, was on great terms with his children, ex-wives, relatives and friends, and stayed with him until his last days. The year before his death, Frank was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal.